Hello, everybody. I'm Marquis Devereaux, your host of Verbal Assault Livestream. We are a political podcast. We hit from left, right, and center. Sometimes we just hit, and sometimes we hit the center a little bit more because they're not taking a side of the left or the right. Yesterday's show was very, very passionate. We got emotional. We got intense. But we always kind of work our differences out at the after show, and Cherokee has invited me up. I don't know if today's going to be the day for an after show, Cherokee, but I thank you for that. What I will say is that we have returning again Cherokee Black, Mr. Kirk Adair, Mr. Brian Parker, Mr. Rob Arnold, Ms. Inyurka Encarnacion, and Mr. Samuel Kuchera, my co-host. Let's get right into the topic. Disappointing Tulsa turnout. Trump gets hissy. Now, Samuel, you know that Trump is going to say that it was a huge turnout. You know it, right?
Yes, of course he would.
And you know that the Democrats are going to take photos and say, hey, the place was only 1/3 full. Please comment.
How would you feel if you spend a lot of money and energy to promote your brand, and then some people do something to sabotage? How would you feel about that? If you spend
Samuel,
time, energy, and money to
do
promote,
you realize the irony of that question?
not yet. Go ahead, make it clear.
Did you realize the irony of that question?
Make it clear. No, I didn't. Go ahead, make it clear.
No, that's already been discussed.
No, go ahead, make it clear.
You know, Samuel, I'm trying to relate to you, but the United States is not about being a brand. The United States is not about being a business. The United States is about being a country with opportunities. It is about being a land where people can come to grow and expand. Would you agree with me, Samuel?
I would absolutely agree with you. Absolutely.
Kirk Adair, from with COVID-19 positive staffers and attendees without masks, is Trump needing to prove something?
Yeah, Trump is very quietly saying that Fauci is lying and the whole thing is rubbish. He said that before. He said it's going to go away without vaccination. What he's trying to do, and unfortunately, he's not the best when it comes to conveying fact. He's a little bit too obtuse. But by not wearing masks, that's not disrespecting. It's showing that the whole thing is bullshit and was from the beginning. And that's what he's trying to illustrate, that America has got to stop being afraid of something that's not as bad as a flu. Okay.
Well, I mean, Kirk just told it. Okay.
So we're saying this is not as bad as the flu. Is that what I heard?
It's akin to it.
It's definitely
something akin to. Okay, I knew I was missing a word there.
You're a string.
Hey, Marquis, can I pop in on this?
Please do, please.
All right. First of all, say that Donald Trump's showing in Tulsa was huge as compared with the 30 people that showed up at Joe Biden's gym. Second, I want to say that the reason why it was a much lesser number than it otherwise would be is because the Democrats and AOC was on board with this. They went ahead and reserved lots and lots, thousands of seats. They reserved thousands and thousands of seats in order to keep them empty. That is the sabotage that Sam was talking about. Now, when they turn around and engage in such subterfuge, and then they turn around and say with their skullduggery, oh, he had a low turnout. Well, their guy had 30 people show up at a high school gym, then the whole thing is a bunch of horse shit.
Their guy is not the president. And
that's beside the point. Hey, hold on. Can I finish the point? If I could finish, please. Hey, Marquis, they engaged in subterfuge. That's what they did. They sabotaged Tulsa with thousands and thousands of reserved seats that they did just to keep them empty, to turn around and say, you didn't get a great showing. You're waning in popularity.
No, I'm going to interject. I'm going to interject there and tell you that I've actually heard the same exact thing.
Well, it's true.
But
But
the hissy fit. He got very, very emotional. The staff is basically stressed out because they don't know whether they're going to be the next people let go.
Listen, you want to call it a hissy fit? Maybe it was just him showing a little bit of anger of having been hijacked by a bunch of scumbags. He's going to cover this base the next time around. These scumbags are not going to be able to do it to him again.
Okay, so thank you. Rob Arnold says the word scumbags.
That's what they are. It's
Brian Parker, when we say scumbag, shithole, rapist, where are we? Are we at the bar? Are we at the high school? Are we on the bus in high school? Brian Parker, where's the decorum? You're from North Carolina, brother. Where's the decorum?
What does that mean? No, I know I'm being facetious.
Right, but
you know,
and I'm also going to add to the question and say, where is the decorum when you're a person that comes from a brand and a business? What's going on?
Decorum goes out the window when they engage in cheating. Hey, how's that for an answer, Mark?
Okay, but coming back to Brian, you were saying.
How about Rob when he says Brian? Rob don't talk.
Go ahead, Brian.
Listen. You're a dark-skinned man from the South. We don't have to.
I don't need nobody to talk for me. I appreciate it if he asks me a question, you let the person talk who he's directing it to.
Go ahead. All right, enough already. Go ahead. What's your answer?
Enough for you?
Enough already?
Enough already? Is that like telling me to shut the fuck up?
No, it's like saying go ahead and talk.
Oh, so now I talk when you want me to talk.
No, you talk because you were asked a question. Now you gave a 5-second interjection. Please go.
Okay. Go ahead,
okay.
Laurel and Hardy. Okay.
Now that I have permission to respond.
Laurel and Hardy Go ahead, Brian.
46 years old. I ain't taking it personal.
Go ahead, Brian.
You just don't need to give everybody permission. No,
okay.
But Marquis, there is no more decorum with this. Trump has done mudslinging since he came down the escalator, talking about Mexicans being rapists, not sending their best. Right. Trump called in Cherokee. I hate this because I know it's part of your descent, but calling a grown-ass woman Pocahontas, identifying a vaccine as Kung Flu, which does not notate whether it comes from China or Japan or anywhere else in Asia, is racist. The mudslinging has always been there. Trump got trolled. Trump got bitch slapped because they told him that 1 million people wanted to come to this rally. The overflow had to be taken down before he came. He pissed a hissy fit when he saw that the bowl wasn't full. There's only 6,200 people. So if you're telling me that 193,000 people punked your ass, then something is wrong.
Okay.
Maybe he's a little too trusting, Brian.
Yeah, but something is wrong.
You can't trust these Democrats.
You know something? I trust them enough to have them on the show.
No,
Samuel Kuchera, you were trying to add something in there.
No, Brian said if you got punked by 193,000 people, something is wrong. But yeah, something is wrong. You don't
I agree.
What's wrong with someone messing with your business? Somebody taking money out of your pocket?
I do. But what inspired them to do that? What inspired so many people to do that?
What inspired so many people to do that?
Excuse me, but
that would be their personal.
A lot of kids on TikTok bought up the tickets. Children are becoming more politically adept.
Correct.
A lot of kids brought up the tickets.
So they're not Democrats because they
not yet. Not exactly.
Right. Okay.
That's just wrong.
Well, wait a minute. What you're calling politically adept is actually a cheat. They cheated. Okay. By reserving seats that you have no intention to occupy, you're cheating. And
it was a political statement.
Yeah.
It was a political
it's a false narrative.
So I'm going to put the narrative back to politics. I'm going to ask Cherokee, how is what the supposed ticket holders doing any different than district gerrymandering? How is that any different?
Not different. It's the same thing. It's just like Trump.
Same thing.
It's just like Trump calling in the military for peace on peaceful demonstrators. I mean,
talk about conflation. Eureka. New York. Geez, you got something to say here?
Okay. So hold on, because I'm going to get to sister in a moment. I'd like to direct this question to Kirkadir. Was having the rally on Juneteenth in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Black Wall Street was essentially burned to the ground in a race riot, given his rep for division, the move to connect with African Americans or the white right?
I don't think it was a move to connect with the right. I do think that it was a move to connect with African Americans and to connect with African Americans on a very specific date. I do feel, however, he was in fact trolled, because I get emails from both sides. And I know that the Democratic Committee was doing everything they could to raise money to buy seats at that, because everybody in the world in the Democratic Party was sending me emails to, we need this immediately for Trump's, we need this because Trump is having a rally. We need to raise this, and what bothers me the most is the Democratic National Committee is squandering our funds doing this kind of political joke, and just as a tease or stick them in the side.
Kurt, the seats were free. They didn't have to buy the seats.
They didn't have to buy the seats?
First come, first serve.
They wanted the money to pay the
empty
people.
Seats were taken by people who didn't actually show up.
Right, but those people were paid to not show up. That's where the money came in.
So the kids on TikTok were paid?
People to do the various things all the time. Come on.
Well, it's subterfuge. I keep saying the word. It's for real. Look, this is a cheat. It really is.
It really is.
Say, look, you didn't get a big turnout.
Really okay.
Well,
so
we know for a fact that this whole thing was set up and he was trolled and he was done wrong. Right. We know that. We can all agree on this point.
What I'm not clear about is, if you want to connect with African Americans on a historic day, why not go to a Black church on that historic day and invite pastors and clergy from various denominations and say, let's give some focus to Juneteenth and let's intentionally reach out to African Americans?
He'll go inside a church, he'll implode.
That was not said, Samuel. Would you agree with me?
I'm not aware of it having been said, but I am aware that he's the one that put forth to make Juneteenth a proper public holiday.
Okay, well, right now it's a holiday in New York. Is it a holiday in the United States?
That's what I'm saying. He put that forth.
To whom?
To the country.
To his administration. He put that.
So you're saying
that was only after all the protests and Floyd beat the knee on the neck, and everybody happened to see it because they was home because of COVID.
But
only after that.
But nobody else put it forth.
You know,
he's been working with Black America from day one.
But nobody else put it forth.
So this is what I have to ask people. You know, I'm in contact with various people on Facebook, and I have a person who is Latino, and I don't like to say Latino because I think it's a misnomer. I have a Spanish-speaking brother who is not of direct African descent, but he's always talking about what's happened for Black people. Yet the Black people on this program are each doing their own projects because the opportunities, no one on this program is working a 9 to 5, and they're having to create their own opportunities. I believe that's what the Republican Party is about. Yet and still, I just don't need anybody to tell me what's happening for Black people when they're not in my shoes. I can't tell a woman what's happening with abortion and the pain that it takes to decide whether you want to take your child, because I'm not in those shoes and I'm not wearing a wig. I'm just not interested. But speaking of interested, I would like to direct the next question to our sister, Ms. Nurka Encarnacion. There is still our Republican National Convention being planned, and it's being planned vigorously. Everybody is very concerned that the same thing does not happen again. Nurka, would you attend this if it were held in New York and New Jersey?
With the energy that carries out in those rallies, yeah, I would like to. because I like energy. This is the reason why I like to see sports in person, not through a television. There's a lot of energy in those rallies. I would like to attend them.
All right. Do you in the word you got very uncomfortable when I talked about Black Power. But we hear the word white power at Trump rallies. Should we, Nurka, feel uncomfortable?
I don't feel uncomfortable because I don't feel inferior. I'm a human being. I don't feel uncomfortable. Anybody a Chinese person can say Chinese power. That's up to them.
Right.
I'm not going to feel uncomfortable because of that. As long as they don't hurt me, as long as they don't shoot me, that's fine. Any word can come out of their mouth.
Thank you. This is where I segue into Samuel. Samuel, Nurka says, as long as they don't shoot me, as long as they don't hurt me. But when everybody in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s said white power, that's exactly what happened.
You're going backwards.
Samuel, my brother. Samuel, my brother. Come on, man. Do you know the history of the United States, bro?
Yes, probably not as good as some.
Do you understand? Do you? I mean, because for me, as the host of this show, I'm an independent because I think that both parties are full of shit. But I'm so disturbed by what I'm hearing at Trump rallies. I'm so disturbed by it as a person of color that I say, how and why is this language acceptable? You're a mixed race person. I'm a mixed race person. Huh?
Yeah, I think we should be asking why some people of color are feeling one way and other people of color are not feeling the same way as the people of color. But I gotta be frank.
With you. Go ahead, Cherokee.
I was going to say it depends on their experience with this country. If you're raised in a ghetto that is deprived and you're not getting the proper education, then you're the people that are the stereotype that people look to say, look at them. That's how they act. I wasn't raised like that.
That is correct.
I wasn't raised like that. So I'm not in that group, but I am concerned about that group because I have that blood.
Cherokee, okay. I probably shouldn't be talking so personal about my life, but I will say this. I grew up hungry, sleeping on the floor, cockroaches running through my ears, yet, and by the way, I haven't graduated high school, but I did get my GED at some point.
So that's considered, that's equivalent.
As a young Black man of color, having a good job, I was getting paid $60,000 a year back in 1999, right?
Oh, there were always one or two that get through them. There were always one or two that get through, even in my scenario that I gave. There's always one or two that gets through.
That's right. But where you're saying it's about the people's prior experiences, and I believe that's probably very true, maybe about 60% of it. I think the other part is just the forward-thinking mentality or the optimism. Whether you're an optimistic person or whether you're a doom and gloom person.
If you have nothing, there's nothing to be optimistic about.
I had nothing.
And
I traveled 18 countries.
Samuel, can I jump in here for a second? And I know you have a couple more questions to ask. Please forgive me. Nurka, but I had to direct a question to Nurka in relation to this subject. Nurka, you moved to the United States when you were 7 years old.
6.
Would you say that maybe the experience on an island in the Caribbean is different than the experience here in the continental U.S. during certain years?
It is absolutely different. It is absolutely different. And I will tell you in the sense is that we know our ancestors, like we're very family oriented. My mother made it a point that when we migrated here, we would go back every year to see our family. We have a huge family. It's actually a tribe. Right. And what I've learned from here is that there is a lot of hatred. And right. I would say more hatred to themselves than to others. Because I had to pay a taxi to go to high school every day. Because from the projects, the Black people would throw bottles at me. They always missed. But I was attacked all the time. I saw friends being attacked just for being Hispanic. And it's like, what is the point? I had guys come up and talk to me, and then when I would speak that, oh, you have an accent, where you from? Dominican Republic. Oh, I thought you were black. And in my mind, we're the same race. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
The division came from the government. They separated us so that we could not get together. And it started on the slave ship when they put different tribes together so they could not communicate with each other.
And the education in the school.
And they're still doing that today because that's what you're speaking about.
No, they're not doing that today.
So the miseducation.
Rob, let her finish talking, please.
No, you're the one that jumped in. I just simply commented for 1 second.
Well, you're wrong. You're wrong. And I'm
all right, you're equal. They're still doing that today. And you get upset with me for just popping in and saying they're not still doing that today. It's stupid to say this.
It is not.
But I have called out members of this panel before for not giving the ladies their proper speaking time. So I have brought this issue up. But I'm going to come back to Nurka before I release back to Samuel. Nurka, is it fair to say that you came from a country where you were in the minority with identity?
You were breaking up. Did you say I was in the minority? What?
Okay. So Nurka, is it fair to say that you come from a country where you were in the majority?
The majority of us have melanin. It's even so that we are told that just because you're white, just because your skin is white, doesn't mean you don't have black behind your ears. That's the thing that we have in the Dominican Republic, because we're all mixed.
So the answer to my question, the answer to my question would be a yes. And I appreciate everything else you said. I'm trying to hopefully get you to understand, because some of our viewers had commented that her background as a person of color on an island in the Caribbean is not the same as what the Douglases and the Tubmans and the Nat Turners and and those people in the Crispus Attuses have went through. Do you understand that? Do you understand that there may be some things you weren't exposed to, which is why you don't have the same skew? Do you understand that?
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking.
Yes, I understand that. And like I said to you, I researched, in the 3rd grade, I read Frederick Douglass. That's when I found out about slavery. I was actually working with my father. I was in the car and I looked at my father and I was thinking like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that a man like that will be looked at as will be treated the way that we're treated in the book that I was reading. And from Frederick Douglass, this was a man who freed himself, and he did it through education. We have been miseducated as well. The school did not teach us correctly. And the information is out there because now they're trying to erase history. But the history is out there.
And I'm going to push back on you and tell you that that are in American schools have information that's been doctored. And so some of people have been indoctrinated with some misinformation. So I think a lot of us here agree with you in that regard. Samuel, I know you had some other questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, but I'm taking it back to the politics, how we began about Trump and everything. I think we go way off, but I enjoy it. The protesters, they've turned to riots. The protests have turned to riots.
Protesters are protesting, brother. Rioters are rioting. Right.
That's right.
Those are two different acts.
Riots brought violence. Yeah.
Sam, I got something to say to that if you want me in.
They're by instigators, not the protesters.
Riots are
go ahead, Rob.
Now the removal of arts and statues.
Brian Parker is awfully quiet. I'm concerned.
He's piped in. He's piped in. Sure. Listen, I will just simply say that Marquis is correct. There are protesters and there are rioters and looters. The problem is that they're all melding in together in ways that are very. So hold on. I don't think there are as much peaceful rioters as they are a menacing mob, because there are too many in the middle of it. It's a menacing mob. And let me go ahead and tell you a quick one. I called Larry King Live years ago, and I said to Spike Lee, he's out there saying white man keeps the black man down. I say to Spike Lee, sir, you're saying that the white man keeps the black man down in America, yet you yourself are a highly successful black film director. How do you reconcile
Who got
that?
kicked out of Madison Square Garden? Kicked out.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about some one-off incident. I'm talking about my conversation with Spike Lee on the national airwaves, if I could.
And I'm talking about the conversation that a successful black man.
I'm talking about my back. See, you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear reality. Look,
Because it's not reality.
in the middle of
It's
talking.
reference.
I was talking 10 seconds. Now stop it, Marquis.
No, you were talking for 2 minutes, actually.
I was talking for 10 seconds about my conversation on the national airwaves with Spike Lee. And instead of listening, you want to say, yeah, he got thrown out of a ball game once. Ah, shut up. Look, I'm telling you, please. So I'm trying to tell you something. Will you, please? What the hell?
Come on. Let's hear it. You got 10 seconds.
Answer. You want to hear Spike Lee's answer or not? What the fuck, dude? So I say, yeah, you yourself are a highly successful black film director. His answer, well, sir, there are aberrations to everything. And my answer back to Spike Lee was, get over yourself. There are black people in every station of life in America. I said this on Larry King Live. I couldn't say it here because Marquis jumped all over me. Yes, there are 5,000 cities run by black mayors. Yes, there are black judges. Yes, there are black police chiefs. Yes, white people send their white children to black educators. Yes, white people get pulled over by black cops to go in front of black judges. Yes, white people go under the knives of black doctors. So there are black people in every station of life in America. There's your black power.
So, sorry,
Lee,
Samuel. I got to cut you off. Black educators, black teachers, black doctors. Samuel, would you say there's enough black educators, black teachers, and black doctors?
Depends on how you want to define enough. But I think the point is that black people are infused in just about every aspect of society and still saying that we're not doing enough or we're not getting enough. And I think the fact that we're dominating in sports, the fact that we are in medicine, the fact that we are lawyers, the fact that we are with opportunity everywhere, I think does speak volumes. I really
Samuel, I agree with you, but Rob was talking about Spike Lee. There are times that Spike Lee can't even get a cab in New York City because the color of his skin and someone doesn't want to pick him up. There are times that a person is highly qualified to be one of those teachers or educators or whatever of African descent, and they don't necessarily have the same opportunities because the right speaks about welfare and the left speaks about nepotism.
Actually, I think it's the left that continues to get people on welfare.
To hold them down.
I think it's the left that advocates for that a little bit more. Yeah. No, I think people just need to wake up to themselves. And I remember a saying when I was younger, I heard this saying, it said, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And I think that speaks volumes as well. I think that people have to learn to start taking responsibility for their own actions because there is enough that is available to many of us, if not all of us. It's just that we look at it from different eyes.
Has it always been available to all of us?
It's not that it's always been. It's the fact that it is now.
But I'm asking the question: has it always been?
No,
of course not.
Obviously,
it has not.
Obviously not.
So when did it become to the point that it's available to everybody?
The American Civil Rights Movement.
You think so?
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm out.
Okay, Cherokee, you wanted to add clearly.
No, I don't want to add anything. I'm done.
Okay. Kirk Adair is quiet and Brian Parker are quiet. Kirk Adair, are we just talking nonsense today? Brother, what's going on?
No, I don't think you're talking nonsense. I think that, my feeling is that the opportunities have continued to increase. I don't think they've increased sufficiently. They have increased. I don't believe, the trouble is there's a narrative in every higher educational college, university in the United States with regard to history. And it's not just Black history, it's history in general, because they don't want you to know. If you don't know, you're much more easily controlled. You have to be aware that there's a distinct narrative here. And unfortunately, Black people, Hispanic people, Asian people, and white people, not on necessarily an equal level of indoctrination, because I wouldn't call the American educational system educational. I'd call it indoctrinational.
Right on, right on. I'm so in agreement.
Indoctrinational. All right, Howard Zinn, they refuse to teach Howard Zinn at most historic or in most history classes. And the thing is that even people on the very far right jump up and down and scream, but he's very factual in what he says. Cornel West has made incredible statements with regards to being aware of history being taught properly. He's given kudos to Howard Zinn. So the educational opportunities have grown. And I think that one of the things that you're seeing right now is the 1% of the 1% who are right on top of Betsy DeVos are trying to basically castrate the American educational system. And from my position, okay, of trying to teach history, people say, why don't you teach? It's because I teach the truth. They don't want to hear it. They want to hear so-and-so crossed the Delaware, this happened, that happened, and whatever you do.
But you were a professor, so why would they not hear it?
Dots.
You were a professor. Why would they not want to hear it? Is this why you is this what is this what happened, brother?
It's
what
his
happened?
Experience.
Because my experience is if you teach a decent history class, they don't want it. They want you to teach only one version. It has to be an old-fashioned version of American history that has it's dumbed down because it's, oh, well, you know, you can't ask them to read that or read, you know, such and such because it might involve too much in the class. The other thing is America, even though it was an isolated country, basically up until World War I, all right, with the exception of the Spanish-American War, okay, did not live in isolation. You're talking about Americans who were involved in the opium trade in China, riding in on the tails of the British Navy, okay, and trading more opium than the British did. But they don't want to hear that. Oh, no, we never did that. You know, there are reasons, you know, America had colonies in the Philippines from 1898. They don't want to hear
That's crazy.
They don't want to hear that there was a royal family in Hawaii that were basically imprisoned and shot by the big pineapple planters.
You know, and I bring this up all the time because I say, how is it that Britain gets to a place that they divest Hong Kong and they do the same with their other colonies in the United States? That's not even a you can't even ask the question. Forget the conversation. You can't even ask the question without getting pummeled. But you know, Kirk, you say something that's very fascinating. You said, people don't want to hear the truth. And, you know, Samuel, I've heard from Black teachers who have said when they have attempted to teach true history, they've been ostracized. Now, in the union, they would be locked into their job. But if they're teaching at a charter school, they're making less money and they're let go.
Or if they're tenured.
So the teachers do come into the system, but they're being let go. And we talk about the doctors, and, you know, we do have attorneys, and the representation is increasing, Samuel. But, you know, when you have 400 years of restricted opportunity, I don't want someone telling me about how healthy my tomato plant is when they have a garden, a farm, or they own the goddamn tomato factory. Don't tell me about my tomato plant. Unless I own the tomato plant where we're doing pasta sauce and we're doing pizza sauce and all that. Unless I own that plant, don't tell me about the plant in the ground. But can you understand where people feel people have been maligned for so long? People, they don't necessarily want to hear that there's a present opportunity when there's so much history that has not been corrected.
Well, don't you find that alone is the problem right there? I don't want to hear an opportunity because my yesterday was so bad. Or not even my yesterday, but my family's yesterday was so bad. I think you've got to learn balance. I mean, everybody you know this. I mean, in everything there's balance. Yeah. Earlier we're talking about Mercury retrograde. I mean, we're talking about unbalanced.
No, this is not an astrology show. It came out. But
He just used it as an example for crying out loud.
He got it. Chill, Rob. But it's like we know that life must be balanced. If you want a healthy life, you got to balance your life. Yeah. If you're gonna put so much weight on your past, you've also got to be willing to put equal amount of weight on your future, on
And
your
present.
today and your future. Yeah, your today and your
Samuel,
future.
can I cut in a little bit?
Paramount.
a little bit, not a lot of it, just a little.
Well, I'm going to say
You got
this. I
30
think that when a black person cackles a laugh about the massive, sweeping, landmark legislative victories on behalf of black people on American soil, that is profoundly sad. This country took the centuries and centuries old institution of slavery, absorbed it. Of course it came to our shores. It was long before America was born. Of course it came to the shores. How could it not? We took that in and absorbed it and churned it out into the American Civil Rights Movement. And somewhere between there, you had white people stepping up and fighting and killing and dying for the American Civil War to stop slavery. You had John Adams.
Wait a minute. The Civil War was not to stop.
It was, of course, about slavery. I know that's a nonsense. States' rights and economics. No, there were white people who refused to fall lockstep in. Hold on. There were white people who refused to fall lockstep in with slavery.
Cherokee, go ahead. Mute him. Go ahead,
The
Cherokee.
Civil War had nothing to do with slavery.
Everything to do.
It did not. It had to do with the South fearing that they would lose their workforce.
So you know all those people, what their hearts told them. There were people that said, no, I'm not falling lockstep.
I'm talking about history. I'm not talking about what you as a white man think in your head, like those white people fighting the Civil War to keep people enslaved.
I'm saying that they fought and died and killed over slavery. And for you to try and change the narrative and adjust history, that ain't going to cut it with me. I'm telling you that there were white people who stepped up and fought to end slavery. That's a fact.
They were fighting for land. They were not fighting for black people.
The North fought to end slavery. Oh, did you remember the name Abraham Lincoln? Do you remember the Emancipation Proclamation?
I do. I do.
Okay, thank you for remembering that.
Move about land as well.
I'm telling you.
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
This country did. The American Civil Rights Movement meant a lot.
That's great. Hold on, Rob. Brian Parker, I need to bring in men of color. Brian Parker, I need you in this. Samuel Kuchera, I need you in this. Brian, you're on the left. Sam, you're independent, but you lean right.
Right.
Can you guys, in your heart of hearts, tell me that you have the same opportunities as your Caucasian counterparts in every situation? In your heart of hearts.
Hell no.
Can you name
now,
something?
Samuel, when I ask you this question, I want you to keep in mind that you have traveled. And because you've lived in China and Australia, there are things that have taken place in the United States that you've not been exposed to. And I said the same thing to Nurka. She came here at 7. And that history, she said, okay, but I had to do my research. But if you have to research what you're looking for. And if you're not looking for it, you may not get it. You were saying, Samuel? I'm sorry, brother.
I think that we have all the same opportunities. We have brain surgeons. We had a president.
No.
We have lawyers. We have educators. We have pick an area. Tell me because I need to know.
You either make the grade or you don't.
Pick what?
Tell me, Brian, tell me.
Can we mute this motherfucker so I can speak? Because if I say 2 words, you're going to jump right in.
Whoa.
Jump in on me.
Hold on. Everybody stop, please. Everybody stop. Remember, don't take anything personal.
I'm not, but
and those of us that might be imbibing, I like to save that for the after show where we can get a little bit more loose. But on this program, I need you as lucid as possible.
I'm as loose as they come. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay. Brian. So Brian, just don't personalize it. I understand you're upset, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna try to, but if you break in, I'm gonna go off on it.
It's your floor. Go ahead. Your mic.
Sam, I think what you're not understanding is that there has been institutional racism in this country. Yes, are things getting better? Yes. But if you're telling me that I can go into a bank and a white counterpart can go into the bank and I'm going to be looked at the same way as my white counterpart, then I have a Brooklyn Bridge to sell you. It's just not the truth.
And Samuel, he speaks of a personal incident. Let me correct myself. I had a personal incident that happened in the mid-'80s in Massachusetts, Brookline, Massachusetts. And for the audience, Brookline, Massachusetts is where the Kennedys are from. Go ahead, Samuel.
No, Brian. I want Brian to finish.
So, thank you. So, when I'm saying that, it's interwoven into the system, Sam. It's not that people are saying, I don't want to be optimistic. I don't want to be optimistic. But opportunities sometimes look like they're available to you until you actually have to go and actually try to get it. And when you get it, you're given every reason as to why you don't qualify. And it may be that all your stuff is right, your business plan is right, you got all the required collateral, everything else, yet you don't get awarded it. You know, if I have a small construction company and ABC Construction Company is way bigger and it's a bunch of white guys, you know, my company doesn't get looked at unless there is policies in place that require them to award so much of their contracts to minority-owned businesses. Those things had to be put in place just so that we could get a foot in the door. It's not always about education and things like that. That's why affirmative action had to be there, Sam. It wasn't to tell people that you had to take in people that weren't less qualified. It was to tell you to remove the color barrier and look at people based on their qualifications, not on the color of their skin.
So has that been removed?
I have less than 4 minutes, Sam. I can give you 30 seconds.
I want Brian to finish. I want to understand Brian.
It's ongoing. You know, are we better than we were back in the 60s? Absolutely. If you judge it from that. Are we better than we were in the 1800s? Absolutely. But Sam, that's like saying if you're running a race and you're running the mile, and somebody's already got 2 laps on you and you've made it halfway around the track. That ain't the same. That ain't the same. They got a 2-lap lead on you. And they're talking, and then they're looking back, telling you, "Hey, forget about your past. Pull yourself up and come on along."
Okay, hold on, Brian. I can give Samuel 30 seconds, then I have to close.
I don't believe that they're saying forget about the past. I'm maybe there are people that are neglecting the past or trying to not acknowledge the past. That could be. Yeah, I can go with that. Go with that. I can't imagine anybody saying forget about the past, but I can think that when you said pull yourself up by the bootstraps, I think that's also a very good saying. Yeah, I think that people should be doing that anyway.
Right, but don't put a stumbling block in front of me.
Right. But you also said like these policies had to be put in place because. So that means that the policies are in place because.
Right.
Because with that, guys,
I'm sorry.
With that, I need to close. I'm sorry. I'm going to cut everybody off. I need to close.
The original question was about the opportunity.
I'm sorry. I need to close. That's why you muted, because I need to close. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I really like to give people time to speak, and I apologize. I got a 5-minute warning about 2 minutes ago. We have programs in place for minority-owned businesses. And minority means minor. I've said before it means less than. We have what's called affirmative action. So we should ask ourselves, what are we affirming? When people are in the streets and they're raising fists and they're raising signs, that is the question. What are we affirming?
Hey, we don't wait for somebody to come here. They right here, folks.
I have asked for everybody to be muted, so I don't know what just happened. But I'm going to continue to close. I don't know what's going on here. Cole, please mute that mic, please. Thank you, brother. What I was trying to say in this closing is that Ryan Parker makes a very good point. When someone starts the race at a clear advantage and they run a couple of times around the track, you don't add someone to the race and then suddenly say, okay, you can leave the gate, and then ask them why they're not winning. So, would we call 400 years 2 laps, Brian Parker? No, don't answer the question, brother, but I want our audience to think about that. And Samuel Kuchera said the phrase, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But in order to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you need to be able to buy a pair of boots. If they don't let you into the store, or they don't hire you, or you don't have the knowledge on how to make your own boots, then how you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Verbal Assault Livestream. I'm your host, Marquis Devereaux. I would like to invite you onto Wednesday's program, where we will discuss Wipe Them Off the Effing Map. Fired North Carolina cops accused of racism. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you on tomorrow's program. Bye-bye.